For the last 3 seasons, Trae Young has led the league in assists, making him the first player to do so for 3 consecutive years since Steve Nash. And since the 2018-19 season, no NBA player has put up more assists than him, and he's also done this while averaging 25 points for his career. So it's no surprise that in the last 5 seasons, Trae Young has put up the 6th most double-doubles in the league, placing the 6'1" guard in the company of giants. All things considered, Trae Young is one of the best offensive weapons in the NBA, but nobody seems to care. And recently, we were reminded of the Trae Young disrespect during his back and forth with Patrick Beverly.
I don't know. I don't think he's in a position to speak. I don't think he's one enough to even speak to me like that or tweet me like that. Like,
if this was anybody else, I'd take it. You know what? KD, you got it. I can't say nothing to you. What I'm going to say to KD, Brian, you got it. But you, on the other hand, nah, you ain't got it.
It's safe to say that the majority of fans don't agree with Pat Bev, but in the NBA world, it's a different story. Just 2 seasons ago, Young was voted by his NBA peers as the most overrated player in the league, and over the last 3 seasons, Trae has slowly become the face of All-Star snubs. If you look up different articles listing All-Star snubs since 2021, you'll find that he's the one player that's been consistently there. He is a 4-time All-Star, but he was taken as an injury replacement in 3 of those selections, and the remaining selection came from fan votes. So it's clear that NBA coaches also don't want to vote him in the game.
And Trae Young continued with this on social, and it's no longer getting snubbed, it's getting trade at this point.
Trae Young thinks it's personal, and even LeBron thinks it's fishy. Not sure why he spelled it like that, but the point remains that there's a number of people in the NBA that don't acknowledge Trae Young's body of work and who still question his All-Star credibility.
If any other All-Star would have said something, I would have let it slide. But you, you out of all people, you have no room to say anything.
So why is this the case? I'm the role player, and today we'll be diving into why Trae Young became the league's most disrespected player. So if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and also consider subscribing if you enjoy content like this. But now, let's get into it.
Don't get it twisted. When you talk about facts in basketball, these are facts. You don't win. People get fired. Simple as that.
The main accusation that Trae Young faces from his doubters is that he's a coach killer and some sort of team cancer. And it is true that the Hawks have had 3 coaches in 7 seasons, 2 of whom reportedly didn't see eye to eye with Trae Young on their way out, but the root of the disrespect that Young faces actually goes much deeper than that.
His favorite player is Steph Curry. He reminds me of Steph Curry.
He reminds me of Steph Curry.
He's like mini-me.
Steph has grown before our eyes and become an elite MVP caliber player. So now for Trae Young, he has a blueprint to follow, almost like Kobe Bryant did with Michael Jordan.
Before Trae Young set foot on an NBA court, there was already an expectation that he was the second coming of Steph Curry. The hype was of course because of his long-range shooting that was reminiscent of Steph, but an endorsement from the man himself didn't help to tone down the buzz either.
We're like top 5 in the country, and he said something like he's
unbelievable. I know when you turn on the game and you watch him play, he's gonna do. You're just watching him, on the floor where he is at all times. And
we were on ESPN every day, and I swear that's all they was pushing was the next Steph Curry.
So right off the bat, that was the ceiling for Trae Young, at least in people's minds. Fast forward to the draft, and Trae is picked 5th and traded for Luka that same night, and that also marked the beginning of their names being linked. The two went on to be the stars of the draft, and there was also a bit of a friendly rivalry there early in their careers. As a rookie, Trae Young put up a historic season that I'm not sure if many actually remember. For starters, he had a 35-point double-double in his 3rd professional game, and he also became the first rookie since Michael Jordan to put up at least 45 points and 15 assists. And then he also passed Jordan and Steph Curry for the 2nd most 30-point and 10 assist games by a rookie in NBA history. Luka eventually took home the Rookie of the Year trophy, but these two were so dominant that no other rookie in the class got a 1st or 2nd place vote. Doncic was clearly a generational talent, but right behind him in those first few years was Trae Young.
Luka's Luka, and we get that, but Trae Young is something special. He is a star.
So Trae Young wasn't just the next Steph Curry anymore, but he was trailing right behind the best young star in the NBA, and he was holding his own. That hype carried over to his 2nd season, where Young became an all-star starter, putting up a near 30-point double-double average for the season. These numbers for a second-year player are unheard of, and that was a result of Trae essentially being the system for the Hawks.
I'm not a system player, I am a system.
In hindsight, this was something that many missed about Trae Young, and it's one of the reasons for the disrespect he's seeing today. Fans and the media were so quick to compare him to Steph, but that was never the most accurate comparison. Unlike Steph, who is the same offensive threat off the ball that he is on the ball, Trae Young's success has come with the ball in his hands, and this is why it's no surprise that he's been among the top 5 leaders in usage rate since he got to the league. And this is what I can call the Curry-Trey paradox. A lot of the hype around Trae was because he shoots a lot of long-range threes, and this is why many thought that he was like Steph. And since coming to the league, he's actually made a higher volume of threes from beyond 30 feet on less attempts, but as a volume 3-point shooter, he's still well behind Curry. And yes, he shoots a lot of long-range threes, but he actually ranks 13th in total threes made since entering the league. And he's behind guys like Donovan Mitchell, Malik Beasley, and CJ McCollum, so he's not actually the 3-point shooter that many thought he was. And like many high usage players, Young is not the most efficient player, and he's also prone to turning the ball over, and has in fact recorded the most turnovers in the last 6 years. In essence, Trae is more like a James Harden when it comes to his usage and what it takes for him to impact the game, and even in his play style, a better comparison would be a blend of Damian Lillard and Steve Nash. So long-range shooting aside, Trae Young is actually not like Steph, and for many, he's not exactly who they thought he was. And in my opinion, this may also be fueling some of the disrespect we're seeing today. But following 2 superb seasons in the league, no one really questioned whether building around Trae Young was the right move for the Hawks, but it was not leading to any wins just yet. But the lack of wins wasn't because the team lacked pieces, but more so because it lacked direction. And this is where we get into the first incident of the coach killer allegations. Hawks coach Lloyd Pierce wanted to continue to lead the team towards a rebuild around Trae Young, but it was reported that Young and other team officials wanted to trend in a win-now situation. There was friction there, perhaps more than what was let on to the public, but it all became clear that it was a point of contention when Lloyd Pierce was randomly fired in the middle of the season. And one thing about that firing was that nobody saw it coming.
I'm kind of surprised that something like that would happen. This doesn't seem to be purely just the fact that they're struggling right now. It seems to be a little bit something more that went along with this.
Yeah. But right off the bat, firing Pierce and moving in a win-now direction appeared to be the right move because the Hawks went on to turn things around in historic fashion, and Trae Young went on to have a historic playoff run that is a big reason why his name is as polarizing as it is today. First, there was New York.
Postseason.
Here is Young, finds his spot. Young on the floater, puts it in. Trae Young with a miraculous shot. 2.5 to go, long 3 on its way. Trae Young, ice cold.
The Knicks series was where we were introduced to Trae Young, the villain. Trae Young versus the New York fans. The Knicks made the playoffs for the first time since 2013, so it was an exciting time in New York, but the story of the series quickly became about Trae Young. From a game winner in Game 1 that was followed by shushing the crowd, to disrespectful long-range threes followed by more taunting in Game 2, Trae was making a mark in New York and leaving a stamp in the hostile MSG atmosphere, channeling his inner Reggie Miller. He was the villain, and he was also thriving in that role. And statistically, he joined Michael Jordan as the only players to score 30 points in 3 straight playoff games against the Knicks. And for the series, he also averaged 29 and 10 as the Hawks sent the Knicks home in 5 games. And then in the next round, there was Philly. That series will always be remembered as the beginning of the collapse of the process, but let's not forget that the Hawks and Trae Young played a major part in that. Young specifically continued a historic run, recording the longest streak in NBA postseason history with 20 points and 7 assists, and ironically joining Doc Rivers as the only players to record a double-double with points and assists in a Game 7.
Young sees it, timer's at 5. Drives, tries to pull it back, getting bumped by Maxey. Young, let's go of it. Oh, he got it! Ice Trae!
Now, the Hawks did lose in the next series, but by all measures they had overachieved, taking down the 4th seed, the number 1 seed, and losing to the eventual champions. And even in that series against the Bucks, Young went down swinging and put up another memorable performance in Game 1. Up until that point, Trae Young had taken a major leap in every year of his career, and the Hawks rewarded him with a massive rookie extension. Naturally, fans expected him to maintain that level of growth and that trajectory, but he didn't. His stats remained relatively similar in the years that followed, but everything else outside of the numbers changed for the worse, both in terms of team success and the perception of him.
But what's public was that you not at the game, so why weren't you there?
Man, it sounded you was at me, bro.
But you can see the perception, though, Trae. You are a leader of this team, and when you're not there,
Yeah, but when you're an outside guy like you are, you don't understand in a private matter, in a private situation. You should probably stay on the outside, like I said.
Following that third season, Young had made his mark as one of the better franchise players in the NBA, and perhaps it got to his head a little bit more than what was necessary. The Hawks were not able to carry the momentum from their dream season into the next year, and that was partially due to injuries to some key players, but it also stemmed from defensive struggles that plagued them. Both players and the GM pointed to a lack of urgency and accountability on the defensive end, and naturally, the finger was pointed to Coach McMillan, who looked like he was losing the locker room. But such issues usually trickle down from the leaders of the team, and Trae Young was a guy who had constantly been scrutinized for his lack of defensive effort. When asked about the lackadaisical defense following one loss to the Jazz, Young responded saying, "It's the regular season. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot more boring than the playoffs." And this may seem like a harmless comment on the surface, but in hindsight, it was one of the first signs in the holes of Trae Young's leadership. The end of the 2021-22 season for the Hawks came in the first round when the Heat eliminated them in a 5-game series. But following the final game of the series, Trae Young did not travel with the team and instead left Miami in his private jet without informing any team officials. This made some headlines, but the pattern continued even into the next season. On one instance, Young suffered a shoulder injury and Coach McMillan requested him to travel with the team and attend shoot-around in Denver, but instead of doing so, Trae Young did not even travel with the team, which led to a heated exchange between the two. When the media caught wind of this, the story made headlines, and it also gave us a peek into the complicated relationship between Trae Young and Coach McMillan. The Hawks under McMillan had struggled to string together winning seasons and had followed their conference finals appearance with a play-in appearance and were always hovering around 500 under McMillan. So 60 games into the 2022-23 season, McMillan was fired, and right there, the coach killer allegations were solidified. Because it looked like he was scapegoated for the Hawks' struggles, and that knowledge of his rocky relationship with Trae Young led many to believe that there was more to it. And this is how Trae Young's off-the-court reputation changed in the eyes of many.
No one has coach killer. People are scared to play in Atlanta. Players don't want to come play in Atlanta. Coaches don't want to come coach in Atlanta.
In the same way that Pat Bev did, we can go ahead and list everything that Trae Young did wrong and talk about how he hasn't actually done much in the league, but that argument misses some necessary context. The reality of the NBA for many players is that you're only as good as your last accomplishment. But in a league that's filled with a lot of moving pieces and constant new faces, some players are bound to have a roller coaster of a career. Since that Hawks playoff run in 2021, the East has seen 7 new all-star point guards outside of Trae Young, so new faces have emerged, new duos have been formed, and championship rebuilds have been completed. And all that has happened while the Hawks haven't made any major adjustments. The best way to shut up naysayers like Pat Bev is through winning, and Trae Young just hasn't been on the winning side for a while. So because of the mediocre seasons that the Hawks have put up ever since that run, anything that Trae Young does will always be flipped to fit the negative narrative. If he fills up the stat sheet, he'll be called selfish and an empty stats player, and if he talks trash or back and forth with fans, he'll be called cocky, and if he makes demands and stands his ground within the organization as the franchise player, he'll be called a team cancer and a coach killer. That's the reality of how things work in the league, and it's one of the root reasons why Trae Young is one of the league's most disrespected players. But that's it for the video. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the Trae Young disrespect, and let's have a conversation. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. But until next time, peace.